After so many promises, the Democrats have apparently scrapped plans to add the minimum wage increase, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. It's no longer gonna be in the COVID bill, they've scrapped it. So that means that the current national wage floor, which is $7.25 an hour, assuming you're not a tipped worker, in which case you'll make even less than that, but what's the difference? That's only like tens of millions of people. You could end up just making that, $15,000 a year before tax. And this article, CNBC says it'll likely remain in place for the short term. For the short term, what, like 2 weeks? If it's not in this, come on. What, is it passing in April? Why? Why would it pass in April? Why would the Republican Party, which would have vigorously opposed it under reconciliation, why would they cross over and support it later? We've got a lot more to get to, but I want to stay on this point for just 1 second. Adrienne, do you think that when they say short term, if it is not under a bill that the Democrats can pass without the fear of a filibuster, do you believe that there is any chance that they'll pass it this year or before the midterms?
Oh, no, not at all. I do again think that they're kind of just pandering to us to try to make us go away in this moment, but it will never get done if it doesn't get done now. And the thought that people aren't going to support this, oh man, it's absolutely astonishing if you're actually in this position to help people, because there are so many people out there. We have nearly 32 million workers would see an increase in their pay to not even close to a living wage, but a lot closer than $7.25 an hour if they make that change. But that's not happening.
Yeah, and so what does that mean in practice? Well, currently, the current minimum wage doesn't cover the cost of living for full-time workers in any US state, according to cost of living data published by researchers at MIT. So they very helpfully put together a little infographic of the states, and you can see there that you'd have to get into the green for it to be a living wage. It doesn't reach it in any of those states. There are some where it comes a little bit closer, but it's not even particularly close in any of the states. And here's the most amazing thing. At many points over the past month or so, we have talked about how the plan to raise it to $15 an hour is simultaneously not some insane commie plot, and it's not nearly as much as workers actually deserve. And I think to really demonstrate that, let's do this same infographic, but for a $15 wage. It isn't a living wage in a ton of states even then. Like, you're doing better. You don't have any of those dark blues, and it is a living wage or a little bit more in some states. Generally, it looks like in the middle swath of the country. But even there, if you were to double it, you still wouldn't have a living wage, which means that to literally make ends meet, people have to work far, far, far more than a full-time job. And it's very easy for wealthy people, mostly Republicans, but a ton of Democrats too, to say, well, what's the difference? It's just kids or whatever. And I'm so sick of having to respond to that idea that the only people getting minimum wage are kids, or that if it was just kids, well, they don't deserve any sort of recognition or consideration anyway. And so they have to work far more hours, doing the sorts of jobs that the vast majority of the people who are opposing a $15 minimum wage wouldn't want to do for 1 hour a week, let alone 60 or 80 or 100. And so, Adrienne, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are very much aligned with yours. As I mentioned, that it would affect at least 32 million workers. And also, being a Black woman, I pay attention to things that impact race. And there's research out there that shows that the failure to sufficiently raise the minimum wage from 1979 to 2009, that led to an over 50% increase in inequality between women in the middle and lower class. And it impacts women of color the most. And so we have this entire demographic that is unable to really just have this living wage standards and to support themselves. And it's like that's almost intentional at this point, because you know who is suffering the most, that it's people of color and women. But for some reason, the leaders in the United States is like, oh, that's cool, let them suffer.
Yeah, I think, let's say hypothetically, it didn't have an outsized impact on either women or people of color or women of color. I think they would still hate it because they like violently hate the working class. But especially since that's true, they have no interest whatsoever in it. And thus, even after the Democrats gaining control of both houses of Congress and the White House after winning multiple elections in a row and just winning election after election and special election after special election. The best we can do is, it seemed like we were close kind of for a little bit, and then not so much, even though they could totally do it. They could totally do it right now if they wanted to. The parliamentarian is not some adamantium wall between them and what they say are their political goals. It's advice. I give them advice all the time, and they seem very comfortable ignoring that. Somehow they can't see fit to overrule the parliamentarian. And so if they're not doing it here, and if we believe that there's basically no chance of them overruling the filibuster, it seems like it might be a pretty uneventful couple of years, Adrienne. Yep. And then maybe the midterms will go like they generally historically go. And then, well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely, especially being this close, which is why, hey, like I said before, don't let that R or D that follows someone's name really make you think that they must believe one thing or the other, because the reality is it's all in the actions, and the actions here aren't supporting these people who are generally what we consider essential workers during this pandemic. And no, they're allowed to starve and to struggle, and there's nothing democratic, there's nothing right or just about that.
Yeah. Ugh. Things were supposed to be better in some way with the new year.
2020, man.
Not so much. Got a little bit. Every once in a while, someone will send in a message saying that they got vaccinated. That's nice.
Yeah.
And WandaVision has been pretty good, and that's about it.
2025 too.
Yeah, oh God.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.